Thank you, Lori, for that introduction. It really is a privilege, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to share the Thermo Fisher Scientific employer brand journey and what that has meant for our candidate attraction and engagement, as well as the impact that it's had on our employee engagement. You know, as Lori mentioned, I began working at Thermo Fisher Scientific just a little over a year ago, but I've been with Thermo Fisher Scientific on this brand journey for quite some time. Prior to joining Thermo Fisher, I worked at TNP Worldwide, where Thermo Fisher was my client for 5 years, and we began the employer brand journey in late 2014 with research, and then we officially launched it externally in late 2015, and shortly thereafter I joined the organization. Since employer brand launched, we've had significant impact to some of our metrics. Specifically, the increase to the traffic on our career site, the increase in the number of applications that we receive per job, as well as reducing time to fill on key hires. We've also seen a significant increase in our employee referrals, which is rather exciting because prior to brand launch, we were significantly low in employee referrals to industry average. So it's been great to see that uptick. Now, while these metrics positively impact the business, the most exciting part of this brand journey has really been the engagement and the support that we've received from our employees, from our internal communications teams and our marketing communications teams, and our leadership as well. So what you'll see, on the screen here, this rings true for every company, a set of mission, vision, and values. And what that is they're the core strategic influences that every company has to really ground employees in their roles, as well as influence them on their behavior at work. But it is, at the end of the day, the company's expectation of us as employees. At Thermo Fisher Scientific, we have a very powerful mission to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. It sounds great, yet it is still the company's expectation of us. Like, what does that mean for me as an employee? What's the impact that I can make at Thermo Fisher? What is the compelling message that I can use to speak to every candidate individually and give them that compelling reason to join the organization? And more importantly, how do I use it to differentiate myself among my competitors? So what we're trying to do here is to, like I said, clearly give every single unique candidate the compelling reason of why they should join an organization. Our company vision is to grow to 75,000 employees by 2020. We knew that if we continued to lead with our company's expectation of us, we weren't going to hit this goal, and this language really needed to be turned on its head. So what I really want to do today is to give you something to take away with, and that is to win the war for talent, you really need to start talking about not only why a candidate should join your organization, but how they're going to connect to your company and what it is that the company is going to do to support them in their purpose. And that is truly starting to hire with purpose. So Lori gave some really insightful information at the start of her presentation today about this idea of needing to lead with brand and not lead with job, and this idea of leading with a unique and personal message for everybody, and that this is going to be our new normal, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. So what I want you to think about today is not to be afraid to stand out, but do it in an authentic way. Differentiating yourself from your competition is going to be more important than ever. So how do we do this at Thermo Fisher Scientific? What did we do, and what can you learn from it? That's what I'm going to share with you today. And my goal is that by the time today is over and my time with you is past today, that you're excited about the possibilities that lie before you as a recruitment marketing professional, and that you have a solid grounding and understanding in the importance of hiring with purpose. So I do have a confession before we get started, is to tell you that Thermo Fisher Scientific, outside of the scientific community, struggles with brand awareness. So if you don't know who we are, I'm going to share just a little bit about us with you today. We're an $18 billion in revenue company with over 55,000 employees in 600 plus locations globally. We have the largest investment in R&D in the industry. 25% of the products that we sell today didn't even exist 5 years ago. Our team sells 12,000 requisitions a year, ranging in discipline from science to sales to finance to marketing to operations to supply chain, customer service. And we do this at all different levels, from early talent roles all the way up to the leadership level. So what do all these people do? Well, think of us as the Home Depot for science. If you're a scientist, a researcher, a physician, and you need something, chances are Thermo Fisher Scientific is able to help. I love Jim Cramer's analogy, and I think he says it best. Jim Cramer's from Mad Money. He calls Thermo Fisher Scientific the arms dealer for science and biotech. So all these locations, these job roles, it presents some challenges when you're thinking about building a brand. Specifically, there isn't one universal employee experience that I can draw from that's going to resonate with everybody. Secondly, it is a company of mergers and acquisitions. So you've got these various company cultures in one, and there isn't really one thing about the culture that I can draw from, knowingly that would ring true for every single employee. So it was important that when we started this process and we went down the journey of really understanding that we needed to build our employer brand, is that we did it with a research-led approach. So where did we start? Well, as I mentioned at the start, we engaged with a third party, TMP Worldwide, to conduct 13 leadership interviews. We conducted an on-site culture workshop that consisted of employees from talent acquisition, human resources, communications, and marketing. And we also did a very thorough review of our employee involvement survey. This is something that we send out annually, and it gives us a real good pulse of the organization and some of the proof points that we can learn from, and also things that we can discuss externally that our employees are proud of. We also had 6 focus groups with key hiring targets from around the world. So the way we've encapsulated all this research is with an EVP platform, which is Realize Your Best professionally and personally. And what it means is that Thermo Fisher Scientific is truly a place where, as an employee, you can realize your best at a personal level as well as a professional level. So how do you use an EVP? Well, you might be, in the process right now of building your brand, and now you've got this EVP. What do you do with it? I don't recommend using it as a tagline. Instead, use it as a guidepost. That's how we use it at Thermo Fisher. Use it as a guidepost for the messaging that you want to send out to your potential candidates. What do you want to be known for, and how do you want your candidates to perceive you, and how do you want your employees to perceive you? And that has to ring true. So our EVP is that guidepost and the gatekeeper for us to decide the type of content that we choose to create, type of content that we choose to invest in, and the type of content that we choose to share and elevate throughout the world. So the other thing that's important about building your EVP is understanding your audiences. So messaging to audiences, different audiences, and that audience segmentation was critical to us when building the brand. There's certain things that we can say that we learned from the research that ring true when speaking to a sales professional versus maybe a technical audience or someone at the campus or university level. Other key messages come into play when we're talking about the different global regions that we have. So ultimately, by understanding our audience and understanding the key messages that we want to use to communicate to those audiences, we're giving ourselves sufficient tools in a toolbox to draw from so that we can begin to have those unique interactions with each and every candidate. Let me give you some examples. Our Asia team, for example, in the APAC region, they place much more emphasis on the company strategy and on leadership teams. Our EMEA region, on the other hand, puts more emphasis on the challenge of the work that they'll be engaged in. Where if you're a finance professional, You place a lot of heavy importance on the size and the scale and the stability of our company, while a sales professional cares more about who's their manager. Is the manager, high-quality manager? How are they going to be recognized for their efforts, and what does the team look like that they're going to be on? While our IT and R&D and technical roles place the most importance on the level of innovation. This is extremely important for us to know and differentiate ourselves from competition, because we know from research that employees are dissatisfied with the level of innovation occurring at some of the companies, and so that's an opportunity for us to dial that up in some of our messages. So throughout the research process, we've established this great EVP. What do we do with it, right? So how do we begin talking about it? Well, it became evident very quickly that our employees were truly passionate about sharing their stories that connected them to not only their personal purpose, but to their professional life as well. So our employees are driven by their passion for the work, their purpose, and the work that we're doing here at Thermo Fisher. And the brand platform is really an opportunity for them to share these inspiring stories of community and care and health and innovation with the world. And we've been able to extend this, not only externally, but internally as well. And this idea of the professional and the personal life really coming together, it came to a point where the messaging that we went to market with, you couldn't separate the two. The creative messaging would fall flat if you were just talking about the professional experience or just talking about the personal experience. There's this true integration with the two, and that's what I want to share with you today. So let's take a look. The first person I want to introduce you to is Louise. Louise manages the IT team that supports our transplant diagnostics group. So the products that this team sells are used to determine the compatibility of bone marrow and solid organ transplant donors. So the work her team is doing is truly a life-saving effort, and it's part of that match between the recipient and the donor. Physicians and clinicians rely on our typing kits to determine the accuracy and the best possible match. It also measures the antibody levels to look for signs of rejection. So it literally can mean life or death for our recipient. Everyone on the team is proud of this work, but Louise has an even more personal reason to be so deeply connected to this. Louise and her mother are both recipients of kidney transplants. So she's able to bring that unique experience and perspective and the importance of the work to her team, as well as the intensity of what they're doing to her team. We've got Louise here pictured running on a beach because prior to her transplant, doctors told her she wouldn't run again, and she was an avid runner. She loved to run and had run marathons. Well, of course, Louise is an inspiration, and she's proved people wrong, and she's since her transplant been able to run in several marathons. So we really wanted to honor her story, and her purpose is running, and we were able to bring that to life for her, and we're grateful that Louise was able to share her story with everyone. The next person I'd like to introduce you to is Joe Beery. Joe is our CIO of the company, and from a very young age, his twins suffered from a very debilitating and, at the time, mysterious disease. It was a real frustrating mystery. His children suffered from these life-altering effects, and for 14 years, the Beery family struggled for answers, until one day, everything changed. That breakthrough was provided by genetic research, the type of work that Thermo Fisher Scientific does. So I want to share with you Joe's experience and his connection to the work. And what I love about this story is Joe, as a leader of the company, is still so connected to not only the mission of the company, but he's so humbled by it as well. So I'd like to share Joe's video with you for a minute here.
The story that I tell about Thermo Fisher Scientific is a very personal story. This is my family. They're beautiful. My 17-year-old son, Zach, 14-year-old twins, Alexis and Noah. They're healthy, happy, full of life. Life wasn't always like this, though. Life was a lot harder. 1996, we were ecstatic to learn that we were having twins. Alexis and Noah were born.
Everything inside of me knew that there was something wrong. From the day that we brought Noah and Alexis home, they were colicky. They were both throwing up multiple times a day.
Somebody in the Beery household was up literally 24 hours a day.
It was extremely stressful.
How could that happen? Or our previous example with Zach he was just perfect.
I would say between the two of them, over 80 tests within the first 4 years of their lives.
It just felt like a never-ending roller coaster and no answers.
I just felt terrible. Like, I didn't feel myself whatsoever.
Her eyes would roll back in her head, and her hands would crawl up to her chest.
Well, for me, the main thing is throwing up all the time, and I would throw up 24/7.
As the big brother, it's like, I wish I could take it on instead of them. You don't want to see them go through that kind of thing.
At 2 years old, Noah and Alexis were both diagnosed with cerebral palsy. We had them in therapies. They seemed to be getting better. We reached age 5.5, and Alexis had definitely been regressing.
The biggest thing I remember is not being able to reach people.
It's all of the normal activities that any family would ever be able to do, we couldn't.
For years, I would ask, why is it when she wakes up in the morning, she can walk and she can talk, but by 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning, she could not even sit up.
Loretta was just the mama lion. I mean, every day she was out there doing all the things that she needed to do.
I came across an article that was titled Deft Diagnosis, Sagawa's Dystonia Mimics Cerebral Palsy.
She's the true heroine. What she found changed our lives.
One of the common threads that separates this disorder from cerebral palsy is how the patients function at a higher level in the morning, and as the day goes on, they become more debilitated. And that was Alexis.
So in 2001, the doctors began to treat the twins with L-Dopa. From the time in which Alexis took her first dose, she was literally transformed. She was walking with her hands down. She was doing things we didn't even know she could do. She was whistling. She buckled her own seatbelt. We became a normal family. In 2008, I took a job at Thermo Fisher Scientific, and that was a significant event in the Beery family.
The late 2009 is when this cough that Alexis had been dealing with for about 6 years had turned into a severe breathing problem. We almost lost her several times. And so we are back into this world of doctors and testing, and no one can come up with an answer. We had the opportunity to have their genome sequenced. I couldn't help but believe that we were going to find something.
We went to the Texas Children's Hospital and the Baylor College of Medicine and spent the day with the teams there.
They drew blood, and that was the only thing they did. We saw the solid systems in place, and we saw them actually sequencing the samples.
They identified the gene that caused the twins' problems. The gene SPR was associated with production of both neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin. We knew about the dopamine deficiency, but the information about serotonin was new. This research has allowed doctors to better understand the twins' disorder and the breathing attacks which Alexis experienced.
The biggest thing is we now have substantiating evidence.
Oh, there you go.
I feel very good, and I'm just like really a happy child now.
Yeah, I feel like I can function more, like I can understand stuff better.
This is about the millions of other families looking for answers.
That's our hope, that kids with rare disease will have this opportunity so that they can be treated and that they can have new lives and new hope. Our heart and our passion has always been in this journey to reach out to other people.
This is a living example of what we do at Thermo Fisher Scientific, how this research allows doctors to better understand diseases, and it's personal to me. Frankly, I wouldn't have 2 kids here today if it wasn't for what Thermo Fisher Scientific does.
below is an example of a leadership story that we're able to showcase here. But connecting to early talent can take on a different approach. So I wanted to share just a contrasting video with you, and this is Lauren Miller's story. Lauren Miller is able to communicate to other potential early talent candidates the really challenging life work experience that she got not only as an intern at Thermo Fisher, but also as a first-year employee. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and share Lauren Miller's story with you as well.
My name is Lauren Miller. I'm a scientist in the Research and Development Group. Mine is a story of making the world a healthier place. I got my bachelor's and master's at Boston University, and I applied for an internship with Thermo Fisher Scientific because I was just interested in the ion torrent sequencing platform. But once I started working there, I loved it, and as soon as I graduated, they flew me out to Carlsbad, California to be a full-time employee. You always envision, a fresh scientist out of college. You typically will be running machines all day, washing beakers. But I'm so lucky to be part of this team because we do real science, and we travel to these global sites, and we help customers, and we train clinician scientists to do this amazing work, and we are able to help these companies make real differences. It's very exciting to see something go from the lab bench to real solutions. It's an amazing feeling, and it makes for a great story. I've been at Thermo Fisher Scientific for a year now, and I've already traveled to Scotland for customer troubleshooting. I've put my input on designing custom gene panels. I've met the most amazing people. I've learned about information management software. I've learned how to manage my own projects, and I've just learned how to be in a large company, and it's been great. Full-stress clinical research. I think when it comes to working at Thermo Fisher Scientific, if you know what you want to do, but especially if you don't quite know what you want to do, it's the perfect place to start. It's a huge corporation, and there's a place for everyone. I would definitely recommend it. There's nowhere I'd rather be. What story will you tell?
Okay, the last story I want to share with you is Larry. Larry was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2014, and he was given a year to live. However, thanks to an employee benefit called the Impact Program, our HR professionals were able to assist Larry in getting a second opinion. After in-depth testing, it was revealed that Larry didn't have lung cancer at all. The program gives employees access to cutting-edge technologies and helps deliver treatment pathways based on your individual specific molecular makeup. Larry couldn't be more grateful. If he'd pursued the lung cancer treatment, it would have killed him, and he wouldn't have been here today to share his story. Larry is an excellent example of communicating to candidates that we care. I don't need to overtly say in my ad, we care about you. Larry's story does that. It does that for us. So it's a great example of how I can communicate what the investment that Thermo Fisher Scientific is willing to put into their employees. So to date, we've been able to develop within talent acquisition this really robust library of 40 stories. We continue to identify and get new stories, almost daily. What I want to share with you, next is how we use the stories and how we deploy them, but also how we're growing and extending the employer brand. Because I've always been taught that an employer brand is a living and breathing thing, and that couldn't be more evident, throughout this journey. I think there's this feeling, I mentioned that it took a year from research to launch to launch the employer brand, and then the time that it took to develop the 40 stories and identify them and build them and develop them, and the approval process. When you're done, it's kind of like, I'm done. But the reality is that this, an employer brand is a living and breathing thing, and if you build it properly, socialize it properly, it will start to naturally grow. And I want to show you kind of how we do that. So externally, for activation, what that looks like for us was, we built a social content strategy that we use as a platform to showcase all of our employee stories across various channels. We also use it to connect candidates with other types of content that are going to connect them to our company and to our mission and to their purpose. We've also recently relaunched our career site on Smashfly's recruitment marketing platform, and that's been an excellent way for us to showcase the employee stories that we have. The other thing that we've done is we have activated the brand across all of our channels, and we take ownership of all of our channels where possible. So our Indeed page, our LinkedIn company page, and our Glassdoor profile. With Glassdoor, we've been able to segment by audience using all that great messaging that we took from the research and putting that onto different audience profiles on Glassdoor. And we've started that audience segmentation on that platform as well. And what it's meant for us is we've become the second most visited company in our space on Glassdoor. And we've also, we're outpacing our competitors in terms of traffic and growth by 2 times. So it's been phenomenal for us. Internally, what we do is we offer brand training so that our recruiters and our hiring managers can understand how to use these employee stories in conversations with candidates. We've also done a lot of socialization and education with leadership teams in helping them to realize their role in the development of the employer brand. And that has really been key for us, and I'll show you in a minute a really good example of what that leadership buy-in means. And this is all important because whether we're promoting the brand externally or internally, what we've been able to do is, outside of these 40 developed talent acquisition stories, our brand has been able to take on a life of its own and grow because the platform's there and all the content curation that's happening right now and the growth that's happening is all natural and authentic. We built the platform, and we've given everyone that messaging as guideposts to go by, but we've had this, like I said, kind of natural curation of content since. So let me show you what that means or what that looks like. I mentioned we launched the brand in late 2015. In early 2017, our internal comms team started also developing My Stories. This has been so phenomenal because they've helped really broaden our scale in terms of the amount of stories that we're able to share externally as well. But also internally, it's been great for our talent acquisition team because our recruiters now have access to even more stories than ever before so that they can start to pick and choose the stories that they can share with potential candidates so that we can start delivering that more unique experience. It's also been a great way for our teams to learn more about other parts of the business that maybe they don't recruit for so that they get some more education in all the things that the company is doing. I mentioned leaders and their role, and I wanted to just quickly highlight Greg. Greg is our leader of our customer channels group. So obviously that group is very focused on customer channel development and customer relationships and building those relationships. And Greg took the employer brand platform really, to heart, developed his own story, produced it on a video to share with his team. And Greg's story is he brings a unique, personal past experience into the importance of customer relationship building. As a child growing up, his family owned a grocery store, so he was really able to see firsthand and learn early on the importance of customer relationships. And so he brings that story to life for his team. And then the other exciting thing is I keep saying TA built these 40 great stories, but now our divisions are starting to do the same. They are starting to launch story contests with their employees so that they can learn more about their employees' experiences and start really sharing these great stories amongst their teams, and it's a great tool for engagement. And this is all happening globally. So I think that's important as well. We've activated this global brand, but now how do we start to localize it? And again, that's a natural occurring process. This example here is an employee in Germany who is a site leader, and he was so passionate about the story campaign, but also the work that his team is doing in cell culture, that he created his own My Story, and in German it reads, "My work is a story of opportunity." So we're starting to get submissions like this, and these are all great things that our recruiters can use in candidate communications. But what's next on our brand journey? Well, we know that we still have a lot of work to do to align our company brand with our sourcing efforts and our candidate experience. We know why this is important. Talent is the differentiator, and it's core to our company vision. We want to align to that vision. We want to be achievers and contributors to the success and the growth of the business within talent acquisition. So what's our solution? Our TA leaders are launching a talent attraction capability. It's a global sourcing model to better position talent acquisition to deliver unique candidate experiences. So by better aligning sourcing and branding, we're able to increase our candidate pipelines and our talent pools. We're able to increase the quality of candidates that we're delivering to the business. We're able to improve each candidate care and the candidate experience that we're offering. And we're also able to increase our service delivery to the business internally. This is exciting for us. It's a true best practice when you can align and deliver a unique candidate experience for each candidate. And I know you're all on this call today because you want to transform recruiting. This industry is changing. It's changing because of technological advancements. It's changing because of talent shortages. It's changing because the businesses demand it, but it's also changing, more importantly, because our candidates deserve the best experience possible. So I hope you're all ready to get on this rocket ship because, like I said, talent acquisition is transforming, and I know you're on this call today because you want to be a part of it. At Thermo Fisher Scientific, we're 57,000 extraordinary minds, enabling our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. And it's more than something that just fills our day. Our work has purpose, our work matters, and our work, it results in meaningful outcomes. We're helping our customers make the world a better place, whether they're finding cures for cancer, whether they're protecting the environment, or whether they're making sure our food and drinking water are safe. So when hiring candidates, we need to communicate our purpose to better enable our employees to fulfill their own purpose. The company benefits by accelerating research and solving complex problems. The employees benefit because they can truly connect their job to their personal meaning and their personal purpose. This is so much more than a job description. I mean, a job description, it shouldn't be a list of competencies and skill requirements. The work that our company is doing is so much more. Their roles are so much more. And this is really the heart of hiring with purpose and leveraging your employer brand to do so. So what I wanted to do was give you some key takeaways today that you can start thinking about when thinking about hiring with purpose. This is not meant to be an action plan for developing an EVP. We've previously shared that, and I'm happy to post that again today, and I will do that today on my LinkedIn and on my Twitter. But what I want to do is to get you to start thinking about the key things that are going to be important as you think about hiring with purpose and how your organization should go about doing that. The first is understanding your company's mission and what that means to your employees' experiences. How does the mission and the vision of the company truly align to what your employees are experiencing within their roles? Next is this idea of segmenting your audience. Know who you need to speak to. Starting with audience segmentation gets you one step closer to a personalized experience with each candidate. How do you differ from your competitors? I mentioned at the start, this is going to be one of the most important things moving forward. How do you leverage your employees' experiences to really showcase how you're different than your competitors? Your candidates have choices, so you need to give them a compelling reason as to why they need to choose you. Next is identify potential employees that are willing to share their story. Employees are going to be your best advocates, and it is the most authentic and real way to communicate the true meaning of what your company can deliver during the employment experience. Next, take a look at those job descriptions. If there's still a laundry list of requirements, ditch them. What you need to do is to start thinking about what is the employee going to get out of their role? What is the impact that they're going to make, not only on the company, but more broadly? And then what are the skills that are needed that are required to do that successfully? And then lastly, as I mentioned, that leadership buy-in, the most important thing. Don't forget to get that. So I hope you all have a better understanding today of how hiring with purpose impacts your candidate attraction, your candidate engagement, as well as your employees. I wish you all luck on your brand journey. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter if I didn't get to answer all of your questions today. Thanks so much for the time that we've spent together today. I really appreciate it.